Okay, we
Good.
are good to go.
Yay!
So, good morning, Amy Lassen.
Good morning.
Good to see you. I'm Charlie Bengal, CEO of Remax Allegiance, and my co-host today is Amy Lassen, Associate Broker with Remax Properties in Colorado Springs. Today, we would like to discuss Googling yourself. When's the last time you Googled yourself? What an interesting question,
Yeah, how
and what
early is it?
interesting results.
Yeah, it's a little early in my time zone for this conversation, but what the heck? Let's
It
do it.
is. It is.
It's a little
Yeah.
scary.
8 o'clock your time, 10 o'clock on the East Coast, but it can be scary. And for the associates and agents out there that haven't done it in a while,
Yeah.
let's discuss kind of and what can happen if you don't create your own, right? So
Mhm.
anybody can create an online profile for us, whether we want them to or not, on Facebook, right? They could create a Facebook business page, I suppose, for us. Certainly a Google page, right?
That's a little ambitious.
Yelp,
Does that happen?
Yelp. Well, Yelp does, right? So they are a
Oh,
bad.
you mean if somebody genuinely wanted to complain about us? Is that what
Yes.
you mean? Okay,
Yeah.
got it.
Yeah.
We're
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
talking
Yeah.
about identity theft or something. Okay,
No. No.
yeah.
But Yelp is probably the worst offender in this. And then if somebody has a really lousy experience and you're not on Yelp, they just create a quick profile for you on Yelp, and then
But what if you were?
they leave one bad review,
Mhm,
right? And you don't even know about it.
mhm,
Now, at least if you're on Yelp and you've created your own profile
mhm.
and somebody leaves a review,
You'll know.
you're getting notified.
Okay, got
But there are agents out there, and I used to teach a class on how to set up a Yelp profile. And I had an example of an agent in Old Town Alexandria who's with a competitor who had two bad reviews, and I assure you he had no idea they even existed,
it. Mhm.
because it said, there's also that the little disclaimer of, is this page claimed or something by
Yeah.
like the person, and it hadn't been. But
Okay.
when you Googled this guy's name, on the first page of Google was Yelp, and it was these two one-star reviews, and he had no idea they were even there.
Mhm.
Because had he would have more, I shouldn't say he had no idea. Had he, you would assume he would have claimed the page and
Sure.
gone out and gotten some clients that did have good experiences with him and
Sure.
done, asked them to do reviews for him.
Mhm, mhm.
So I guess where I'm going with this is you can't just ignore online profiles and say, I don't want to be online.
I
You
see
don't
what you're
necessarily
saying.
have a choice,
I see
right?
what you're saying. Yeah.
So, and
It
it's
may or may not be
less
it.
likely that somebody has a great experience with us that they're going to create this Yelp profile on our behalf, right? It's more than likely somebody who doesn't
Yeah.
who's going to go and create, a lousy profile. So,
So I think you're making a good point about how we can't opt out. We can't say I'm not interested in that. That doesn't. I just work
right.
with people who already know, like, and trust me. But I wanna share a story. I have a friend who had a lot of Zillow reviews, and he got a really bad one. I think it was
Hmm.
like, if there's a 0 stars, I don't know what it was.
Yeah.
It was scathing. And this was an online lead, a lady who called him and said, "Hey, I'd like to buy a house in North Denver," and we
Hmm.
are probably easily an hour and a half drive south of there.
Okay.
He didn't work in that market.
Right.
He made it clear he doesn't work in that market, and he offered to find her an agent up there. And then she just wrote him this scathing review about what a bad agent he is and what poor service she got.
Wow. Yeah.
Well, okay. So he called. I think this is back in the day when you could call Zillow.
Hmm.
I don't think you can now.
Right. Right.
And he said, please take it down. And they said, that's not a thing.
Yep.
We're not going to take it down. So engage with the comment, make your
Yep.
own comment, and it is what it is, and then just get a bunch of good reviews.
Yep.
So for those of us who have had maybe one or two and you're freaking out, just get a bunch of good ones. That's the way to overcome those.
Yeah, and a lot of agents say, and maybe it's because it makes them feel good, but a lot of agents say that one bad review every once in a while, it makes you look human. It makes you look
Sure.
authentic. And I think your response to that bad review, factual, non-emotional, as hard as that is for realtors, let's not bring a bunch of emotion and drama back into it, right?
Yeah, yeah,
But we want to, I think whether it's a good review or a bad review, you want to respond when you can, depending on the review um, system or program or website that's
yeah,
being used, right? You want to acknowledge all reviews, right?
yes,
Because it shows that you're paying attention.
yeah,
It's interesting when you go on TripAdvisor and you have hotels that respond to all the reviews. You have some that just respond to bad reviews. You have some that copy and paste it's like every bad review gets the same canned response, and you're like, what are you doing, you fools? Right? I mean, we know that you're not paying any attention. You have some admin that just goes in and flicks out the, we got a lousy review, so here's the response, the canned response. So I think spending time in answering reviews is important.
Sure. Yes. Engage with your community.
So let me share my screen, and I'm going to pick on Tom Faison, who is just a really great team leader of ours in the Capitol Hill area of Washington, D.C. And he's got a good, a pretty good presence here. So this is actually the second page, I think. Go back to page 1. And this is going to end up being a podcast. And for you folks that are listening on the podcast, I would encourage you to just go over to YouTube and watch the video so you can see what we're talking about. So if you were to Google I Googled Tom Faison Realtor. I think the first step is going into Google and doing an incognito window on Chrome, right? That way you're kind of starting fresh. And as you can see here with Tom, he clearly has a system, or we will see in a minute, he has a system for getting reviews. So he has a few Google reviews. He has 3, which is good. And, he has a Google profile here, but then you get down into Yelp and 26 5-star reviews. So they have clearly decided, okay, we've reached critical mass on probably Zillow, which we can look at in a second, but we've reached critical mass and it's time to look at other sources for reviews. And they've gone to their clients that are on Yelp and they've asked for Yelp reviews. And this is, I think it's super powerful. And you can see here that Google and Yelp and Facebook, what stands out is the orange stars, right? So even if he did not have this nice Google profile set up on the right side here, if you were to scroll down, what immediately gets my attention would be these stars. And if it's just 1 star or 2 stars, it can be a little bit alarming. In his case, it's 5 stars. So one of the lessons here is Yelp, Facebook, and Google, they have these stars that really stand out on the page. If for whatever reason, and you and I were chatting about this before we went live, it's very interesting that Zillow is not on the first page for him, right? Yeah. On almost all agents, it's like the second or third search result on the first page, but in this case, it's actually
second page
at the top. Yeah. And you'll note here, I can click on it. He's got a ton of reviews, over 100 reviews, right? This team is amazing. They do a ton of business. But the stars do not stand out on the page, right? Yeah. So we always say, I shouldn't say we, I don't want to speak for you. I always say when somebody says, where should I start with online reviews? I say start with Zillow because they get the 70 million views a month. That's where so many people go. You may have a differing opinion there. My thinking is start there, and then when you get a fair number of reviews, and I don't know what even a fair number is. I want to say 20, but it's dependent on how much business you do in a given year.
Sure.
But then when you get enough to where you feel like you're competing well with the other agents in your market when it comes to reviews, then move over to Google, Facebook, Yelp, etc. What's kind of your opinion on, like, you Googled yourself, let's say you don't have any reviews, right? Where would you start?
Honestly, I think I'd start with Google because this looks so good, right?
True, yes.
It looks really attractive. It makes you look smart and professional. When we Googled me, and I'm not the best example because I'm a coach and a trainer, I don't put a lot of time into my profile as an agent. But the thing that was interesting in Googling me with an incognito browser was I easily probably had 3 RE/MAX results, and then Realtor.com, and then like Zillow was easily 6th or less. So I don't know what that's about, but I don't know. I mean, the other thing about Zillow is your people have to set up a Zillow profile. Yes. They have to go through the portal. They have to follow Zillow's protocol. That's not true for Google reviews, for good or ill.
Right,
Because if
right.
somebody just wanted to come after you on Google, they could.
Yep. And same with Facebook, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
So anyway, I think a few of each, looks good. And if I think the challenge is, and Charlie, you and I talk a lot about this, are we going for the sizzle or the steak, right?
Right.
What is our intended outcome? Like, how important is any of this stuff? And I think that if you could just make sure that your basic profiles are complete,
Yes.
setting up a Google profile, by the way, it's called Google My Business. That's the name of it. And it is not hard to set it up for yourself. Add a few nice images like this. I get regular updates from Google about how many people have looked at the images on my profile, which I think is kind of funny. But that's the way Google works. You put tags in images and people come upon your content.
Mm-hmm.
So I just don't think it would be too hard to just set up a couple of them and have an even distribution. So is that too long an answer?
Good. So you're saying start with Google. No, I think that's a great answer. I think starting with Google, because again, you can getting a Google or a Facebook review is really simple, right? Yelp, there's the algorithm that Yelp tries to figure out whether you're fake or not, whether you actually did business with that person. And then they filter out a lot of reviews when they feel like you haven't. With Google, I mean, I could review you on Google, right? Outstanding educator and trainer, would never hesitate to use her as my realtor should I ever be moving to Colorado Springs. Done.
Yeah.
It's done. It's posted. There's no computer looking to see, am I legit? Or you legit, right? Did I do a transaction with you? Where with Zillow, like you said, you're setting up an account, which annoys some people. You can opt out of emails. You can close the account, but you do have to set up the account, and then their algorithm or whatever they use to try to make sure that I did business with you exists. And if they think that I'm making up a review and I've not done business with you, then the review doesn't appear, right? It gets
and
filtered away.
I sure don't mind the authenticity path. I mean, that's a
Right.
good thing.
Yeah.
But honestly, for all those listening, I hope they really don't overthink it and make it hard. Pick one, get a couple reviews. Next week, pick another one. Get caught up. Don't make it hard on yourself. The first time I ever asked for Zillow reviews was the night before I taught a Zillow class. I asked 5 past clients if they'd review me, and I got 5 5-star reviews. It was like, well, that worked, and I showed up to class. But it was proof that you can just decide to do it and get her done.
Yeah, and my challenge for those watching or listening would be, when you do decide to do it, incorporate it into your regular plan of action when it comes to listings and sales.
Each transaction.
When do you ask for reviews, right? That's always a very interesting question, right?
Yes.
Do you set people up at the presentation on the front end of, I want to provide you 5-star service, so you use me in the future, so you refer me to your friends and family, and so you'd be willing to, I will ask you for a review and I would love a 5-star review, right? So you're setting the expectation at the very beginning that you are going to ask for reviews. And then as you go through the transaction, you can remind them. And then at the end, it's deciding, where do you want them to go? If they're a heavy Yelp user, I totally have them go on Yelp, because it's actually going to be posted, right? If you've never been on Yelp before, you don't have an account, you create the account to review me, it's probably going to be filtered out because they think that it's fake, right? But if you've had 50 other Yelp reviews, then you reviewing me on Yelp, that's going to be number 51 for you, and it's going to show up on my profile.
That's a cool idea, to let the client choose.
Yeah, and I think as you get to know the client, you'll know, like, do you use Yelp? Like, are you a big Facebook guy, right? Whatever it is. And then if you're deficient in some review area, you could always ask. I mean, there may be a millennial that would be happy to do 3 reviews for you because it'll take them 5 minutes, right? An older client, you may just want to stick with Facebook or Google because it's, literally click it and click the enter button and you're done.
Yeah.
And I thought it was really interesting. Somebody was mentioning last week that having relevant reviews when it comes to the date and the time. In other words, if all of your reviews are 2 years old, people start to wonder, right?
Right. Did you go out of business?
Well, yeah. I mean, are you still busy? Et cetera, et cetera. When I go on TripAdvisor before I book any hotel, and there's people that there's a lot of people know that I like to travel a lot. It's like my, my why, my passion. And if they don't have, I'm not interested in like the reviews that are 3 or 4 months old that are great. I'm interested in like, how is it going like in the last month? I'll scroll
Sure.
through a couple pages and then I'll, if it's 4 circles on TripAdvisor, but the last 10 reviews are 1 or 2, I'm like, I think I'm just going to move on and pick a different place to stay, right? So
Yeah.
you want stuff that's more recent. So
Mhm.
I think even when you feel like, oh, I have enough reviews, don't stop asking because you want the fresh reviews as well.
Right. Well, I want to make a pitch for Remax Allegiance training and support for their agents, because you have several great resources. Jerusalem is going to be teaching a Zillow class, and it's beyond Zillow that it will cover.
Awesome.
There's a great section on building a good profile and then how to ask for reviews. And I think you made a really good point about setting the tone early. Let them
Right.
know that you'll be asking for the review. And I love to tell the story of the first time I ever stayed in an Airbnb.
Mm-hmm.
Total leap of faith, fly into a city I've never been to before, never used the service.
Right.
And the gentleman who was renting me a room in this Victorian house, he just kept saying, nothing less than a 5-star experience is okay with me. And he just kept saying this. His mother was ill, he was out of town, someone else
Yeah.
was watching the property. It was all fine. But
Mm-hmm.
he hovered and he hovered and he kept saying, nothing less than a 5-star experience is okay with me. Now, here's what I want to be clear about. I'd never done it before.
Mm-hmm.
It was a funky little room. It had this corrugated outdoor shower. Like,
Mm-hmm.
this was the goofiest experience. And I probably would have given it 4 stars thinking, well, everything could be a little better.
Right.
Like, and so I'm admitting to being that consumer.
Mm-hmm.
But he said, make sure. If it's not 5 stars, you tell me. And so when
Right.
it was time to review, I'm like, you know what? It was amazing. And
Yeah.
it was super cool. So I think that you are right. We can guide them better.
Yeah, set the like everything else. We talk so much on this show about setting the expectation with the client, right?
Yeah.
Every client gets the same presentation. Every client gets the same expectation set.
Yeah.
This can just be a part of that. You don't want to beat them over the head with it, but it's just
No,
part of your regular
no.
flow and presentation and everything else. So,
so that's the other thing. Props to Allegiance for those of you listening, whether or not you're Allegiance agents. If you don't have complete processes and really thorough checklists that include those reminders, reach out to your broker, because Remax Allegiance has those for you.
awesome. Very good. What else today on, I don't want to have a short show.
Well,
but
no, we can.
What
no,
else?
no.
What
I
else
think
do
we
you
can
have
talk about this.
on profiles? Yeah.
Well, so the other things, whether you're a Remax agent or not, I think that Googling yourself is more than that. Like, if we were to then go through and click on each one,
Yep.
does one of them have your old picture, right?
Right.
I have a niece who's actually a brand consultant, and it was hysterical to have her do an audit of my brand. She's like, wow, so you've got 5 different professional photos and the bios don't match.
Right.
So figure out what is the brand that you want to be known for. I knew a guy way back in the day who was an agent in Seattle area who had a really odd haircut, and he refused to change it because it was iconic.
Okay.
Like the decades go by, and he just maintained the wonky haircut because he felt like it made him really recognizable.
Yep.
So whatever it is, do the best that you can to have a consistent brand. It's not hard to update your online profiles. It is interesting to see Realtor.com ranking higher than Zillow. You may have a Redfin profile, who knows? It's amazing to see what ranks. LinkedIn, LinkedIn might rank for you. So just set aside a little bit of time. Go in and make some basic updates. Maybe you switched brokerages 5 years ago and forgot to do anything about it, and LinkedIn still has it
Right.
wrong.
Yes.
So I think that you can just follow protocol. We actually have a class on that at Allegiance too, walking you through the basics of blocking out the time to maintain your online presence. But I wouldn't overthink it. If it's not going to be a big thing for you, and you can see that for the Phasons, it really is. My sister in Denver, she has huge presence on so many online profiles, but they do a lot of business. So if that's not a big thing for you, I would say do your best to clean it up and somewhat set it and forget it.
Right. I like that. And then do not be afraid to ask colleagues for reviews on the Googles, on the Facebooks, right? Where it's, again, there's not this wall that is keeping, you from asking for reviews on these other sites, because again, it's just 5 stars. They write a quick couple sentences. I work with them. They're a great agent, da, 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 da. It doesn't have to be a buyer and a seller, right? It does for Zillow, right?
Sure.
Or a client. But most of the other sites that you and I are talking about today, it does not need to be. So if you want to get your profile up and running quickly, phase in again the stuff that's, really jumps out at you with those orange stars that we were showing: Yelp, Facebook, and Google. And as you said, start with Google, and then, Facebook can be a pretty easy process as well.
Just because it's so visible. Yeah.
So I like the idea. So how often would you do this audit? I'd say at least once a year, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, if not
and
more
I think
often.
it probably depends on depends on your volume of business. I think for a lot of us, we probably ought to have some sort of a monthly review cleanup on our business, but most of us, the time gets away. So what about quarterly? Maybe that's a good frequency, that every quarter you're reviewing your profit and loss.
Quarterly, okay.
Just the big rocks, right? Reviewing your financials, reviewing your online stuff. Yeah.
I like that. Good, cool. What else you got for us today on profile?
I'm just excited about getting other professionals to review us. And it's not because it's easy and we're getting away with something. It's because I honestly would like to have that be one of my testimonials. That someone I coached said that I gave good advice, that someone that I consulted for said that I gave good service.
Yeah.
For someone that I did a deal with, they said I was really a great agent to work with. I really like the idea of adding that.
Yeah, I like it too. And again, make it part of your process, right?
Yeah.
And it's, if you had a great deal with another agent, hey, I'll review you. Will you review me? They'll be like, sure, right? If they have profiles set up, they may be like, you can review me on Facebook, right? There may be some confusion.
Yeah.
Right. But, just ask.
Yeah.
And, any people in the office, again, just ask. So I think you can easily build up your Facebook and Google reviews really quick. Right. I mean, you were able to get your Zillow reviews, 5 Zillow reviews overnight, which is pretty amazing. That is definitely doable with Google and Facebook. I think it's challenging with Zillow. I got to create an account and, this and that. And there's a lot of people that don't like doing that. But if you're setting that expectation up front, then, start there. So what if they don't, you're selling 25 houses a year, you're a top agent, you don't have any Zillow reviews. What is the game plan for going back to past clients and asking? There's some people that are like, hey, I'll throw you a gift card if you review me. There's other people that they just call them. There's some that do a text. You can actually go into Zillow and you can click on the property that was sold, and you can send the link to them. So the review is linked to the proper property, if you will. What is your game plan for, what, I've had a great career. My people love me. I've never asked before. I should. Where do I start?
Well, I think everything you said would work. So everybody listening, just pick the one you want and do that.
Yeah.
For me, I like to try to make things softer and nicer, and formatting a pretty email and putting the link in and with an explanation of, yes, you will be prepare them so they're not going to bounce out.
Yep.
If we make it sound super easy, like it's no brainer, you just click on the 5th star, and that's not going to be true. So make it clear they'll be asked to set up an account. It can be anonymous. And if they don't want to get updates from Zillow in the future, they can delete the account after they review. So just make it clear and make it easy. And then ideally, if it's been a long time, call and just say, I've never been the type of person to ask, for this favor of my clients.
Right.
But it really has become a big deal online. Social proof is a big thing. And then being able to trust the professional that you're choosing based on other people's recommendations is really valuable. So can you help me out? And everybody's always happy to help.
Awesome. Would your email include links to like 4 or 5 different review sites? And you say, I would love it if you would review me on one of the sites below, or you being surgical and I'd love if you would review me on this or that?
That's a great question. And so me personally, like I said, I'm not the best poster child because I don't do as much business and chase every single source. I think it would be ideal, and I think you made a good point, they may have their own preferences.
Right.
So if we had 4 great ones, maybe ask if they would do 2 of the 4.
Yeah.
Like make it easy on them, and then they get to choose.
Yep.
I don't know if it's reasonable to ask everyone to do it over and over, but
Right.
maybe there'd
Right.
be an easy way. Maybe you could say, once you've written your review, look, you can cut and paste. I don't know.
Right. True. True. There has, and we always get this question, is there a third party that allows the client to do one review and it then almost syndicate to everybody? There's not, right? So
Okay.
we actually we've been with QSC, with RE/MAX Allegiance for years.
Sure.
And when the agents give the client email address to us, they get an electronic survey. And it's different because it's sent by a third party,
Yeah.
right? And then they respond, and our associates can make that review public, right? They can have a public-facing profile page that they want, however you want to do it. And I know that there's other ones called, like, is it Real Satisfied? I want to say is another
I don't know that.
kind of third-party one. There's a couple out there, but nobody, to answer everybody's question, is there somebody that can do this? There's not, right? That's like one big problem in real estate. It's almost, and the other one, by the way, boy, if we could solve this, we would be rich. It's how do you gather all of this is totally off topic. How do you gather all of the stats and feedback every week on a listing in one place?
Oh.
It all gets sucked into one place in a nice report that you send to the seller, right? It doesn't exist, right? Because it's the agent feedback. It's the online feedback. It's what people said at an open house.
Yeah.
Boy, it's such a time suck. But if we could solve this review thing, Amy, and this other thing, we could retire now.
There
right?
you go.
Subscription service, we'd have 100,000 subscribers. Easy. Right. So, okay, awesome. Last minute thoughts today. Yes.
Well, I think I want to leave everybody with what I always do, because I feel like we overwhelm people. Agents love shiny objects, but they also love to be overwhelmed by them.
Yes, I like that.
And well, it's true.
It's so true.
Well, and maybe it's our excuse for not being proficient. It's like, well, it's not my fault, I'm overwhelmed.
Right.
So I really want to encourage everyone to hear you when you said, put it in your process, put it in your process. I'm teaching my business planning classes starting in October at the brokerage, and I'm going to be really, really emphasizing that you need to imagine a budget of time for each transaction. And we've worked out the math with large rooms full of agents over and over, so they buy into my number. But if a listing takes X long start to finish, and a buyer takes X long start to finish, that is part of your protocol. Right?
Okay.
You always ask for reviews. You always do this. You always do that. So once you've established it, this is how long this takes. And then this is how long lead gen takes. And then this is how long marketing takes. And then you put it in your calendar and you commit.
Right.
Right? And when somebody says, hey, you want to take this wild, crazy class on senior seminars? It's like, stay in your lane.
Right. Yes.
You've already budgeted your time. Stay in your lane and get your stuff done. So here we come. Here comes fall. Sprint to the finish, because you will love yourself in the first quarter. If you stay in touch with your people, if you follow your plan, if you don't get squirrely,
right,
you will love yourself in the first quarter. So see you in any upcoming classes. We have great, great systems to make you more efficient at RE/MAX Allegiance. Stay in your lane. I
like it. Stay in your lane. Call your clients. The question that I ask everybody: does everybody that knows you, likes you, and trusts you, that does not have a real estate license, have all of those people heard from you by phone in the last 90 days? Not one person has ever said yes. So call your clients. Call your clients.
Talk about a quarterly focus.
There you go.
Right?
All right.
Review your reviews, review your financials, call your people.
I like it. Awesome. We'll see you in 2 weeks. Always good to see you.
Wonderful. Bye, everybody.
Take care. Bye-bye.